Brandon in California, you should know as we bring you up here.
Oh.
My finger's on the drop button.
Hey.
So you want to know why we embrace the trans community by listing pronouns?
Yeah.
And the answer is inclusion is absolutely important. Inclusion is important, and we want to make sure that everybody is included and has a chance to be who they are. You have a problem with that?
I was just curious because it seemed to come out of nowhere. I've been I like to call myself an atheist because I'll go a step further and be like, there is no God. And for the same reason.
You mean it's come out of nowhere? We have been doing this since the day I started, which I think was 5 or 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's been going on longer than that. So what do you mean it came out of nowhere?
I mean, well, I guess I've been watching for a long time, and I guess when I recently started watching again, I started noticing the pronouns on the lower third, and I just curious. It just seems
inclusion.
I don't really know. But so the fact that you made a point earlier saying, it's not very much of the population. Yeah, it's like less than 1%.
I don't give a shit what the percentage of population. It's not 0% of the population. I want to include as many people as possible. So do the producers of the show and everybody on this show. By including pronouns, we allow those to have some to know that they're included and that they're welcome. I don't see what the problem is.
They can be included without having to succumb to their demands, if that makes sense.
We're not succumbing to any, you know what, you're done. Blah, 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 blah.
So okay. I had a question to ask of Brandon. I'll ask it off while he's off the air. And that is, should we have, those parking spots between handicap spots where they put the stripes down so that the ramps can come down from the vans and you have room to get your wheelchair out? Should we do those? Because 1% of the population in the U.S. approximately are in wheelchairs. That's what we're talking about. Inclusion. We as a society, imagine a world where we don't know where we would have been born, that we might randomly be placed in all sorts of strata in our society with all sorts of conditions, with all sorts of sense of self. And we would hope that we would build a society where it doesn't matter where you are dropped in, either by your God, if that's what you believe, or through the roll of the genetic dice, if that's what you believe, but we all might end up in these different places. And the goal of society should be, in my mind, to make sure that the bottom rung of whatever ladder you get dropped onto keeps going up. That doesn't necessarily mean the top rung has to come down, but if we keep bringing the bottom up, everybody gets included. Everybody gets to participate. What skin do you lose by us putting these pronouns out? The fact, I totally agree with Jim on dropping the call as soon as he says you succumb to their demands, right? Like there's this specter organization of trans people out there terrorizing America, and you better do this or we're going to destroy you. It couldn't be further from the truth. I mentioned earlier, I was born in 1970. I had to sort of adjust to a lot of things. Amen. I've seen a lot of shit. Yeah. And wow, if you go back and look at what people thought back then to now, there's been a lot of change. And what should it be based on? It should be based on facts and evidence. If you claim to be a atheist, if you claim that because you are demanding evidence from of a God, you should also demand evidence of people who are telling you that there's a shadowy trans organization that's terrorizing people, instead of just saying, they're a human being. It's no skin off of my back to put pronouns on the screen. Why don't we go ahead and do that? So yes, thank you for saving me the rant. Even though I just ranted a bit.
No, he it's all he really deserves to be hung up on, and hopefully his ideas get kicked to the curb soon, because they're just absolute bullshit. We should include everybody and make sure, design a society if we don't know where we're going to end up, we would want to be in, right?
There was a study,
whether we're poor or rich. Right.
Absolutely. There was a study. My undergraduate degree is political science. One of the first studies I read was a poll that was taken where they had ladders, literal pictures of ladders with 2 rungs, upper rung, lower rung, and you were presented with 7 of them. And they polled people and said, hey, you're going to be placed into a random society, and these represents how bad it could get and how good it could get for you. And when they ran that poll, overwhelmingly, the ladder that got picked by the majority vote was the ladder with the highest bottom rung. Every time they run that poll, that's what people, when they are presented with the abstract idea, that's the society that we think we should be shooting for if I'm acting in my own self-interest or if I'm trying to make a better society. So enough with the terrorism, for calling people being kind and considerate succumbing to terrorism or demands. That's just ridiculous. We're just trying to be nice.